Who did more harm to the Pistons, Joe in his last days or Stan Van Gundy?
I don't. It's hard for me to say anything negative about Joe Dumars because he did bring the championship. And over the past few years, I've realized how much the Davidson family had kind of basically handcuffed him as a GM those last few seasons, where they weren't really letting him open up the wallet to go bring in free agents. So it's hard for me really to judge Joe Dumars' last few days. But I always felt like Stan Van Gundy, solid coach, but I felt like he made trades based on emotions. Like, I felt like sometimes those trades were like, did he just have a bad day with the player he just traded? Is that why he got rid of him? And I just felt like with Stan Van Gundy, it was he never gave the team enough time. So I'm going to say Stan Van Gundy's tenure in his last days was way worse than Joe Dumars.
Yeah, so I would probably say Stan Van Gundy too. Stan Van Gundy not only waived Josh Smith, but he traded for Blake Griffin and made us buy out Blake Griffin. I mean, he traded second-round picks like they were snacks.
Yep.
Like, we had no second-round picks for multiple years because Van Gundy traded them all. He traded for players that I think were win-now moves. Like, obviously, trading for Tobias Harris, which I thought was probably his best move as a GM. Forcing the Blake Griffin trade, which I just didn't make sense to me. Passing on guys like a Donovan Mitchell in the draft and drafting Luke Kennard. I think Van Gundy set the franchise back, I would probably say 5 to 6 years, because look how long it's taken us to rebuild and have like clean books. Like, we just got off Blake Griffin's contract last year. Like, that's insane.
Dude, the Josh Smith one went forever. I hated that. How long did that go?
Yeah.
8 years or something?
Yeah, it was pretty insane.
I will say, too, about Joe Dumars, I don't think he was the best at recognizing talent from the GM seat, but I do think he was able to build that Pistons team because he had played against a lot of those players. I don't feel like him as a scout, he was very good. I feel like Stan Van Gundy might have been a better judge of talent, but Joe Dumars was able to build a championship team, and maybe he could have done more with the team. Maybe he could have kept maybe he could have kept that championship window going more if he could have kept Larry Brown in Detroit, and if they had opened up the wallet for him during free agency.
Yeah, I think they were both terrible at drafting.
They were.
Yeah, I mean, they're not like 1A, 1B. They were like Van Gundy drafted guys like Luke Kennard, Henry Ellenson, just to name a few. Joe Dumars passed on guys like Kimball Walker. He drafted Austin Day, Kyle Singler, Aaron Aflalo. Like a lot of these guys were like, they were okay players, but like I didn't even mention like passing on Carmelo Anthony because it's just like, it's like taboo. Like that whole draft was just, it's so weird. Like maybe you don't get Rasheed Wallace if you draft Carmelo Anthony. Who knows?
That's what Ben Wallace said. Who knows?
Yeah, that's what Ben said. I've heard him say it not only on your podcast but other podcasts too. He's just like he doesn't think that if you do draft Carmelo, you get Rasheed, and they don't win a championship, and you can't replicate that Tayshaun block. Like
I did convince him though that they should have drafted Dwayne Wade because he wanted Chris Bosh, but I was like, dude, if you get Chris Bosh, you don't get Rasheed. And I'm like, but if you get Dwayne Wade, you could bring him off the bench as a six man. He's like, all right, that makes sense.